All right, I think we're live. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the special webinar presentation, Mind the Gaps, Fixing the Ignored Problems of SaaS Management. We're going to take a couple of minutes, give people the opportunity to, sit down, maybe they're grabbing some lunch, get prepared. So while we're waiting, Gil, I have to ask you, are you watching some of these soccer games going on right now?
Sure. We
Yeah.
love football and soccer in Israel. Um, I don't know why you call it soccer. We call it football, but you call football something else. Yeah, we know. I know.
Okay. So this is the perfect way to fill up the spot because I've actually looked up the etymology of the term soccer. It actually originated, I believe it was on the campus of Oxford in the late 1800s, where they needed some way to distinguish it from rugby. This is 100%
Okay.
true. And so it's
Okay,
actually
I believe you. I believe you. You went far. You went far. We call it football, and yes, I'm watching it. It's interesting. Some of them a bit boring, but I think now in the next stage it will be much more interesting and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like the knockout rounds where it starts getting exciting.
Yeah,
Very much looking
yeah.
forward to that. All right. Well, I don't want anyone to jump off thinking that they joined the wrong webinar. This is Tori's special presentation about how to mind the gaps, fixing the ignored problems of SaaS management. A couple of quick housekeeping items throughout the course of this webinar. We cannot see you. We cannot hear you. Your mics are set to mute. Your cameras are turned off. However, if you have feedback or questions throughout the course of this webinar, I encourage you to use the questions, the chat box through the platform that this webinar is being provided through. So, quick look at our agenda. Today, we're going to be talking about these gaps, and we're going to be doing it by starting out by looking at the evolution of IT through the personal lens, a personal story from our special guest here, Gil. Then we're going to talk about the common pitfalls of SaaS management, why this stuff often becomes more difficult than it should be. We're then going to look at how to identify and resolve those inefficiencies. We're going to talk about how to build scalable and comprehensive processes. And then we're going to talk about the importance of remembering that everything we do here, everything we're talking about, it's a work in progress. You're never done. You can get better, but you're never quite there. And it's continuous improvement. And then, like I said, we're going to wrap it up with some questions and answers. Now, a little bit about our guest today. This is Gil Hananya. Now, he needs no introduction, and yet I will offer one for you, Gil. Gil is a veteran IT leader with global impact. He has over 20 years of IT experience, and he's currently working here at Torii as a global IT director, where he helps with our system scalability and business resilience. He's also got a background as an architect of robust IT frameworks, creating these processes such SLAs and disaster recovery that increase organizational efficiency and security at some of the leading tech companies such as Salesforce and CyberArk. And finally, and I think most controversial here, is that Gil, apparently you are not a fan of the greatest food ever invented. Is that true? What do you have to say for yourself?
I don't have anything to say about that, but it's true. I never ate pizza. I don't know why. Can't.
Well, all the
Can't.
same, we still would love to hear your valuable insight. So without further ado, Gil, the stage is yours.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm really excited to be here. Those 20 years went fast, too fast. I have more than 20 years of experience in IT and the tech industry, but never had the chance to do webinar like this. So I'm super excited. But yeah, and as I said, I'm not eating pizza. Kill me. Evaluation of IT. From my perspective, there are two major steps in the IT evolution. The first one, I call it the virtualization revolution, and the second one, moving to the cloud, what we call it SaaS. Let's start with everything at the start. Everything was on-prem, and each system had its unique physical server, and the virtualization took one strong physical server, lots of RAM, strong CPU that hold few systems together. And back on those days, If someone needs to install software on his computer, he had to call IT. IT had to go to his desk. You had to remember to bring the media, CD-ROM, DVD, whatever. And of course, you had to bring the license if it was a serial key, file, or a different media, and on a different media, of course. Those on-prem days always remind me a story. It was, I think, 15 years ago, maybe more. I was a young system administrator. And one evening, I was doing a maintenance work in the office, of course, and on our mail server. Don't ask me how and how I was able to do it, but I delete all the server, all the mailbox, I delete everything. And from a short maintenance work, it became an all-night work to restore everything. Eventually in the morning, nobody knows about that. It ends good. But it brings me to the second revolution, moving to the cloud. Suddenly, what we call it SaaS, suddenly everything we need is available in the cloud. Everything is being backed up by the vendor. No more nights on the office. And on the other hand, all the control we had as IT on systems, account, licenses, budget is gone. Each one can start using any application he wants with a quick registration, few seconds of, just putting your email, maybe a password, and you start working. Also, COVID had a huge influence on that. COVID gave it a huge boost. Without a choice, we started to work from home, and we needed all resources to be available from everywhere. And now we need to manage it. Now, as IT, we need to start and learn almost from scratch how to manage those resources. And at the start, we didn't have the tools for it. Now we are in new era. We call it SaaS management. What is SaaS management anyway? SaaS management or SaaS Management Platform, SMP, is a platform that gives you a central admin console to manage, automate, and optimize SaaS use by your employees. SMP also enhance protection on identities and data while using SaaS. Only SMP offer all of those capabilities, and we're using Torii for that.
Yeah, well, so we talk about SaaS management, and it really is a game changer from an IT perspective, but a lot of companies are really struggling to get to that point. Gil, maybe you can talk us through some of the common pitfalls that are getting in the way of SaaS management today.
Yeah, we have three major challenges, pitfalls. First, the technology. Organizations are stuck with legacy systems, and people don't like changes. They want to keep their habits. They want, they know what they know, and they don't want to start learning something new. And the last one, alignment. There are many organizations that are still keeping their old on-prem environment. It's fine. It's fine. Sometimes you have to keep it, but it is complicated to maintain both. That's those three pitfalls, I think, are the major problem in SaaS management.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all seen these to varying degrees in different contexts and different organizations. And it doesn't really matter how long your organization has been around. You're being impacted by these in one way or another. Either it's because someone is bringing in legacy technology or legacy practices, or just fundamental breakdowns in human communication as people are prone to. And so I guess that leads us now, we got a quick poll question for everyone here. It should pop up on your screen. And we're curious to know, which common SaaS management pitfalls is your organization experiencing today from those list of three options that we provided? You think it's primarily about legacy? Maybe your legacy technology, you've got these legacy systems and this technical debt that's accumulated. Maybe it's about the people. Often it can be really hard if you don't have clear communication or expectations or an example kind of set by leadership. This stuff can get really complicated. Or maybe it's an alignment issue where you feel like everyone is kind of pulling in different directions. So out of these three, we'd love to know which is the one that your organization is struggling with the most? Gil, do you have any thoughts on this? Maybe the ones that you've seen as the most predominant in your experience within IT.
If three of them, but if I need to pick one, people, because if the people is aligned with the company or with the technology, well, not with the company, with technology, I believe you can overcome everything.
Yeah.
But you need the people with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to jump now. We've talked about these pitfalls in SaaS management, but maybe let's get a little bit more specific. You're going to talk us through the example of onboarding as a process.
Yeah.
Broken.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. I just talk about onboarding. Sometimes I feel that everything already said about onboarding, but it's taking too long. It's often left incomplete. Lack of communication between teams, usually between the HR, IT, and the hiring manager, manual tasks. And it even can cause undermining productivity and even go to a problem with employees' retention. So it's really painful, those onboarding stuff.
Absolutely. I know we've worked in multiple organizations where we've experienced a lot of these things. I know I've experienced this as the recipient of the onboarding process. But I cut you. You're going to say something else there.
Yeah, I want to say just each one of those challenges have a different reason, and that makes sense. We are dealing with people. It's not systems. We are dealing with people. Each person is different. Each role is different. Each team, the department, each one of them, it's different. And it's rare when two onboarding are the same. That's why it's so challenging and sometimes frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different moving pieces. That inconsistency is a lot of what you're talking about, and a lot of what we're going to address, because now we're going to transition into getting a little bit more tactical about what IT can do about this, right? And so we've got this chart here looking at how to identify and resolve some of the processes. What can you tell us about this, Gil?
First, I love this slide. I think it's a bit complicated, but I think to understand the process of onboarding. But I think like every kind of problem, we need to dive in to understand what is not working in our process. And to do the best way to do it is just start mapping our process. We need to do the mapping very manually to understand and get to the bottom of it and to find the bottlenecks. Remove unnecessary processes, especially those without any added value that doesn't bring us anything. The third step here in the circle, it's very important. It's to communicate with the stakeholders. Onboarding is not for us. It's not for IT. It's for the new hire that joined our organization, and it's of course for the team that he's joining to the department. So we must understand their needs, and we must communicate with them. The fourth one, remove manual tasks, automation. Most of the mistakes are happening because of manual tasks, manual processes. And last one, use centralized platform to orchestrate all of those processes. We're using Torii for that. If you can jump to the next one, in the next slide, we can see how we did the process, the mapping process. We just took a board, just starting doing sketches, understand what we're doing good, what we're not doing good, see where we have lack of information, manual task, all the problem we can find.
Yeah, this is a great example when we're looking at that process map, because I think if you say make a process map, you'll come up with a process map, but maybe you're not actually being realistic about where some of these bottlenecks are popping up. Because like we talked about, there's those inconsistencies. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit like, here's an example of where things might start to break down a little bit.
Yeah. when you are doing stuff, let's take the manual thing for example. If you're getting manual data from the HR, you will miss something. If it's the role, the title, even start day, things will fall. You will have lack of information. And the next one, you start to understand what this person or new hires, what he needs, if it's in this example, they create a Google group user, or to add him to a Google group, whatever, create a Slack user, add him to a Slack user, and we can be very creative here as much as we want. Confirm which Slack channels he needs to be added to, and which not.
Yeah, so this starts to get a little bit more complicated. And we're going to show kind of an example of how we address that in Torii. But first, we got another poll question for everyone about which SaaS process do you believe has the most gaps within the context of your organization, not in general, has the most gaps today? Do you believe it's your onboarding process, your offboarding process, renewal management, or license management? And I should have mentioned this earlier, but those who answer these polls are entered into a chance to win a gift card, and we'll be contacting the winner at the end of the webinar presentation. So Gil, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts based on your experience. Where do the gaps typically pop up?
Employee onboarding, I believe. Employee onboarding. It's before we had Torii, it always never been complete. It's never been complete. Something was missing. Hey, he got the laptop, he got the right groups, but it wasn't complete. It wasn't holistic. And the employee onboarding, for me.
Yeah. And I know with all of these, a lot of it probably comes down to...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There's a lot of different factors at play, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to pivot a little bit, and we're going to talk about how we've worked on I can't take any credit for this, how you've worked on optimizing the onboarding, taking into account some of the things we talked about.
Yeah. This is a screenshot from the system, from Torii, of a workflow we created here for onboarding. I want to elaborate about three things. First of all, it's the trigger one. Trigger, it's in our case of onboarding, the trigger probably will be the HR system. From the HR system, we're getting all the relevant information we need about the employee: name, start day, role, title, department, etc. Nothing falling apart. Those information is found on the HR system. Nothing is going manually. The second one, here it's getting interesting. Branching. As we said, each team has different needs, different resources the team needs, and here we are dividing the workflow to the company department and giving them the resources they need, what they entitled to. And the third one, if you can jump to the third one, non-met. The last one, sometimes people forget about this, but it's super important. We need to know if someone is joined to our organization but didn't met any of our department criteria. This is the place where we learn for the next time, and nothing left without notice. We will get notification if it's a ticket in Fresh or Jira, whatever you're working with, Slack notification. So this is the place to learn. If we can go back to the slide with the circle, please, John.
Of course.
Thank you. Because here this one. Here we can see how everything is aligned together. If someone didn't met one of our branches in the workflow, we get notification. And we go back to this circle, mapping again, communicating again. improve the automation where we need, and all of that we're doing in one SaaS management platform.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I know that, like, hypothetically, let's say another organization, they don't have that none mat. It's such a simple little thing, but it turns what would otherwise be a line into a circle because it gives you that opportunity to catch those things. What does the feedback loop look like without something, without the none mat?
Someone will join the organization. He didn't get what he needs. Nobody knows where he belongs to which department, which team. And the hiring manager will come to you, hey, he didn't get what he needs to get. And you must have this non-met because the company is growing. New roles are opening, new department, new teams. You must have it. You must have it.
Yeah, it becomes a mess. It turns what should be a couple of hours from their perspective, that onboarding process of getting up and running. It can, I know that these things can turn into days of maybe it was an issue with an email or an issue with one of the critical apps that they need. If it's not done all together, it can quickly spiral and just spawn out all these different issues that you run into continuously.
Just remind me that a few weeks ago we just added to the workflow some new feature. I think it's very nice to join a company. Your first day sometimes can be very stressful. We created in the workflow. We created a Slack channel to the new hire and the IT that follows this hiring, and someone from the IT and the hiring manager, of course. And those 4 people have, for the new hire, the person that just joined the company, safe place to ask question here. Where can I find that? Where can I find this? Sometimes, usually in the first day, you are not feeling comfortable to ask those questions. We created this, safe channel, we call it, for the new hire. He can feel free to ask everything. I think it's improved the onboarding experience for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. I know simple little tweaks like that. The fun thing is that a system like this, you get to constantly iterate, constantly improve. But I know that joining a new company, one of the first things is if you don't get all the technology you need, or if you're having issues with logins or whatever it may be, you're probably not going directly to the party that you should be because you don't know who that is. You're probably going to your manager. They might be in a meeting at a time. They might say, oh, no, you contact this person, or they might say, I'll go follow up with them. And then suddenly something that could have been a direct Slack in that channel turns into a game of telephone between 2 or 3 different people.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And I think that brings us back to right after we looked at these, talking about this, it's about the evolving SaaS management practice, that continuous improvement, right?
Yeah. Let's try to wrap it up. SaaS management, it's work in progress. Also, it makes sure that you'll always be coordinate with the stakeholder. It's important for IT to be coordinated with the company, with the business. And it streamlines the adoption of new technology for sure. It's making life much easier for everyone.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to give people just a couple of minutes so they can add their questions to the chat. We'll answer a couple of those questions. But before we do, I want to bring everyone's attention that we've got a couple more webinars coming up this summer in the immediate future. On July 10th, we're going to be talking about securing success with this cybersecurity framework. We're going to have a guest speaker of John Germain, who's the founder of Security Moments. I've had the opportunity to talk with John a couple of times. He's really sharp. He has a lot of experience in the industry, especially with helping SMBs figure out how to approach this complex issue of cybersecurity in a methodical way that prioritizes the things that really matter the most. So I hope everyone will be able to join us for that. And then as a follow-up to that, we're going to get into the weeds about a specific portion of security around data. We're going to be talking with Liz Manigas, who is the general counsel for both Memfault as well as Torii. And she's going to be walking us through strategies to identify your vulnerabilities and ensure compliance. So we're going to be looking at data mapping, how to do it. What does it even mean in the first place? So I hope everyone will be able to join us for those upcoming webinars. All right. Now we're going to take some time for questions and answers. And Gil, let me just take a moment, grab my the questions box. All right, so we have a question here asking about, all right, so they're familiar with onboarding, offboarding. They're asking about what other processes can these apply to? Basically, like how broad can we get with this idea of that circular process of identifying and eliminating inefficiencies? Do you have any thoughts on that?
We can take it for many other things, like remove unused license, save money, of course. Renew app renewals. You need to communicate with the app owners. If there is a team that's using a specific app, you need to be coordinate with them, communicate. What else? There is, from my top of my head, shadow IT. It's a big thing. Shadow IT. People are using unauthorized apps. I believe that each organization has its policy, what allowed, what not allowed, what we want to use, what we want not to use, and you are with this platform. With the platform, you can see if someone is using unauthorized apps. That's off my top of my head, but as I said, it's really robust, and you can do almost everything related to the SaaS apps that you have in your organization.
Yeah.
Removing licensing, adding licensing, app catalog, so more.
Absolutely. I think one of the big things is about taking that mentality of process improvement to it. Basically looking at your to-do list and saying, what are the things I don't want to do? You probably don't want to do them because there's maybe some unnecessary complexity or manual work or something of that nature in there. And for those, just looking at them and saying, what are the things that I can automate? I know one of my favorite things within Torii is to do things related to communication. So being able to send out Slack communications or email communications about things, because I don't want to spend all my time pinging people, but they need to be notified when certain criteria are met. And that is really so much of our work is around, what we talked about, dealing with people and improving that relationship between technology and people. Yeah.
And from my aspect also to at the end, IT we're giving service. IT, we're giving service to the company. My clients are the people of the company. They are my clients, and Torii gives me it's a tool to enhance the service that I'm giving to the company employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I think thinking about it with the customer first, the one you're providing service to. Yeah, absolutely. So in relation to that, we have another question that pertains to how to get more people on board with this process. They're asking about, obviously you don't want everyone involved in these conversations. How do you pick which teams or individuals you should include in these collaboration efforts? And they added in parentheses, how do you make it worth their while? That's a great question, Gail. What do you have some thoughts on that?
If I understand right the question, I would pick one from each department. One of the managers of each department, one maybe someone a bit senior that knows knows what the team or the department needs. The one that can give me good answers.
So it might be something where you reach out proactively and say, I need someone in this team who can work with me. We're changing the way we deal with technology. Who's on board? Find your allies that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so maybe making it worth their while. How would you recommend that? Is there something you would say to them about what your effort or how it could maybe help their standing in the organization?
Communication. I don't have anything, you know, I think this is when something, when I need to adopt something, or not, sorry, not adopt. If I want to improve something, improve a process, I think it's the best way is to first listen what the people need, what the people want. And once you know that, you know what to do. This is my my mantra.
I think that's a great place to end it. We're right up against time, but that message of being, I think, really just being empathetic, understanding your role within the organization and trying to help those that you can. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gil, for your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone else who was able to attend this webinar. Your time is valuable, and we recognize that. And so we truly appreciate you spending an afternoon with us. So from Torii, have a great rest of your day.